You went to Medhold for how long were you in Medhold? Tell the people what is Medhold and why were you there?
So, medhold is where if you get injured or you're actually getting administratively separated for disciplinary reasons, you
Mm,
get sent there. It's a completely different squadron. And I was sent there because I had injured, well, first I thought it was shin splints, but it turned
mm-hmm.
out I had very, very light stress fractures in both of my legs. So I was in
Wow.
crutches for 2 weeks. And what they do is they, like every week you're on crutches, you go to an appointment, you go see an athletic trainer, and they just basically see like if you're improving. And I was not getting any better. Like, and the thing is it's impossible to get better, which doesn't make sense because I'm still having to go up and down stairs really
Yeah.
fast. I still have to march with the flight. I might be in the back and I might be slow, but I'm still moving a lot even though I'm on crutches. So it's hard to rest my legs. You have to be like bedridden. Like at least the amount of pain I was in, I should just not have been on my feet at all. I should have just been in
Mm,
a bed for a couple of weeks. So I wasn't healing at all. And so they, after the 2 weeks, they were like, we're going to have to send you at Medhold because I was just too far back
mm,
from my flight to catch up with what they were doing. And I was scared because most people, I would say 90 to 95% of people who go to Medhold don't come back to training.
right.
Like I was told that, and I've also personally witnessed that. So I went to Medhold, and when you go, you get like a 20-minute phone call with your parents or your family, and you tell them what happened. You have to give them like your new mailing address, so that's where they can send your letters. It's a whole processing
Mm,
uh, thing that you have to do. And it's basically a new flight. So it's a whole new squadron, but instead of there being like 45 to 50 girls, it's like half that. So my flight had like 20 or to 25 girls.
wow.
And it's a whole other world. It's it was the most depressing thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I would caution anyone, please do not get injured and go to Medhold.
Facts. Facts.
Um, I've never been to jail. I don't know what prison is like, but I imagine that that's exactly what prison is like.
Mm-hmm.
So, normal dorms, you have like the windows, like, you know how they have like the really high windows up on the walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, they not only locked the windows so they couldn't be opened, but they were barred. So, we never got any sunlight. Why they did that,
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's because a lot of people, there are some people who go to Medhold that have behavioral issues. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And some people can actually, and there were girls in my flight who were in Medhold for 6 months, a year and a half, simply
That's
due to their
crazy.
injuries. So I guess that's why they barred the window. So there's no sunlight. There's no sunlight, and we don't
Wow.
have to do the same things a normal flight does.
Mm,
So we don't ever have to leave the dorm. So we're just sitting in the dorm for 15 hours a day doing nothing. And to pass the time, they had coloring books with crayons, like if as if we were 5 years old. They had a lot of books. They did
mm,
have a recreation room with like games, and they have like a tiny little library, and you can like talk to other people and socialize, but it's very restrictive.
mm-hmm.
Um,
You guys
but
have your
it's
phones?
no, we did not have the
Wow.
phones.
Wow.
Um, but it was only for a certain amount of hours. It was only open during a certain time. And what you did, if you wanted to go, of course, you had to follow like the wingman rule. Like you had to have someone with
Mm-hmm.
you at all times. So unless someone else wanted to go, you're kind of stuck.
Right.
And if someone had a medical appointment, those people needed to be have a wingman also. So to also help pass the time, you were either accompanying people to their appointments or you were volunteering. So if you accumulated 25 hours of volunteer time, you got an hour in the patio to utilize the payphones and you can talk to family and whatever.
Wow.
So you're literally, I actually did that twice. So I did like
Mm-hmm.
50 hours of volunteer time just to be on the payphones for 2 hours.
Goodness.
So they tried to do things to like improve morale, like they'd buy us like some snacks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's only so much we can do. And of course, if you're injured, you don't want to be doing too much. Like I remember I volunteered as to clean the security forces canine kennels,
Mm.
but I didn't realize that I was going to be on my feet all day, so that ended up like not being good.
Right.
That ended up I'm supposed to be like healing my legs. So what sucked was you were penalized for not volunteering for stuff like KP, for example,
Mm.
which requires you to be on your feet. So if you're not volunteering for stuff because you're trying to heal, other people in your flight would give you crap because they think you're being lazy because they have no interest in returning back to training. So if enough people aren't volunteering for stuff, we would get in trouble. But it's like, but I thought I was sent here to heal so I
Right.
could return back to training. It was very counterintuitive. Medhold was very problematic. I have so many
Mm.
issues with how it was run. I sincerely hope that they fixed it, but there was a lot of problems with it because you didn't have an MTI there at all times. In fact, it was pretty much completely unsupervised
Mm.
until the very end of the day when an MTI would come in, ask everyone how, if they're doing okay, talk to everyone, try to help them work through their issues or to increase morale or whatever. But that was only
Mm.
for an hour at the end of the day. So you're stuck with these same girls in the same room, just doing literally whatever they wanted for the
Mm.
majority of the day. So there was a lot of bullying. There was a lot of things happening that should not have been happening. And it was very scary. There were a lot of girls in my flight specifically that threatened other women all the time and
Wow.
told them like to do extra work or to do like other chores and yell at them for not volunteering for stuff. I actually got um, like picked on quite a bit and yelled at for being lazy because I was purposely not volunteering for things that involved being on my feet, obviously, because I'm trying to
Mm.
heal my legs. But that's because I had every intent of returning back to training. These are all people who were waiting for the paperwork to come through to go home.
Right.
So they had no intention of
Mm.
trying to get better. So I hated MedHold for all those reasons, but also for the fact that there was no structure. I was so used to the structure
Yeah.
that you kind of have to create your own. So like there was no more PT. So in the back of the bay, I would constantly just be doing 1x3s all the time. I was like, I'm
Mm.
gonna get so out of shape if I don't create my own PT.
Mm.
So I would do that all the time. Um, and then eventually they put you after a month. I saw my doctor, and he said that he would put me on I forget what they call it. It's basically a retraining program. So they do what's called like a walk to run, and they plan out like on a piece of paper the exact like exercise you're doing for that day. So it could be, okay, you're going to walk at this speed for 7 minutes, then you're going to sprint at this speed for this amount of time. And you do that for like 15 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, 3 times a week. And then
Mm.
after the exercise, they ask you how much pain you're in. And you keep doing that. And then you go see the doctor again after, I think it's like 3 weeks of the rehabilitation program, and they ask you like, how did it feel, how was your progress, do you think it felt better? So I actually wasn't feeling any better, but I realized that the body is it really taught me how much, the whole like mind,
Mm.
do you know what I'm trying to say, what is it called, like when you're working
Like
out
mind
and you
over body, like you just kind of will yourself through the pain itself.
right, or like if you're weightlifting and you're trying to connect your mind to the muscles so you're actually
Mm.
utilizing, it's kind of like the same thing.
Got
And
you.
I that's honestly what I did, and I wanted to graduate so badly that literally the only thing I thought about every time I was on that treadmill was that like airman run and my family seeing
Mm.
me and being so proud of me at graduation. Like that was my motivation. But I noticed that at around the 12 to 15-minute mark of running, I'll be in so much pain, but at that point it's almost like my body starts numbing the pain, and after
Mm.
that I can run fine. So every time I was like, if I could just make it to 15 minutes, this run won't be painful.
Mm.
So I was still in pain, but I was learning how to manage the pain. I was learning how to step just a little bit lighter so I'm not just slamming my shins on the treadmill all the time. So it
Mm.
was small, weird changes in how I ran that I learned over time. So I was still in pain, but I told them like, yeah, it's not that bad. Like I can do it. So they put me back into training, and I was still in pain, but it was a lot more manageable. I just learned how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't actually healed at all. It was more mindset. I was like, you know what, you just got to figure a way out of it. And it was hard to run, but I could jog. So like, you know how when you're jogging, you have the MTI screaming at you like, run faster or catch up to that guy in front of you. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, they can't make me run.
Right.
So I might sprint for like the 2 seconds that I'm in their line of view, but the second
Mm-hmm.
they're looking at someone else, I'm going to go back to my slow jog. So I learned how
Right.
to kind of fake running really fast, and I just ran at my own pace. I didn't care that people were passing me. I didn't care that I was going too slow for
Mm-hmm.
them. And believe it or not, when I returned back to training, I returned back to my 5th week. I believe your final PT test is in your 6th week.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
your 6th week. And I ended up, I mean, granted, I am 30, so I have different like standards physically for a
Mm-hmm.
PT test, but I got a 93 on my PT test. Like,
Wow.
even with my injury, like, I think my
Mm-hmm.
run time was like 13:40 something,
Mm-hmm.
but because I did like 32 push-ups and like I don't know how many sit-ups, but I got a 93 despite being injured. So like nothing really changed. It was just mind over matter. And so, but I would say like that was a month wasted. That
Yeah.
was a month of
Yeah.
going through like, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the things I saw. Like girls were so depressed. There was one girl who tried to commit suicide from a screw that she found from her bed, and she had to be
Goodness.
escorted by 2 girls at all times. There was another girl who would literally crawl into her locker at night, close it, just and cry. It was insane, the things that I saw. It was really sad. So
Did
I would
Medhold have any long-lasting effects on you? Like, is that a place that you ever go back mentally to like readdress what you experienced and how you overcame that?
it was still really depressing, but I think when I think back, I think like, wow, I made it through med hold.
Mm,
I made it back to training.
right.
And I remember when I was packing and I was like really emotional and I was like kind of tearing up and trying not to cry. This was right when I was about to had all my things packed and I was going to go to med hold. One of the officers, he told me, he's like, listen, you're going to go to med hold, and half the people, they don't want to return to training. They just want to go home. And they're going to try to dissuade you from keeping that energy to come back to training. But I want you, he's like, do you want to be in the Air Force or do you want to go home? I was like, no, I want to stay. I don't want to go to med hold. And he's like, well, keep that same energy. Don't let the depression bring you down. Apparently it was well known that med hold was very depressing.
Right.
So he cautioned me to not fall into that depression. I was depressed, but I'm stubborn. I wanted to go back. I I
Right.
I I knew, because I knew what was waiting back for me at home, and it was nothing.
Hmm.
It wasn't the life. So I knew the only way was forward. So I had to push through it. And so I don't look at that time fondly whatsoever, but I look at it in terms of that was extremely hard for me to go through, but at least I did it.
Yeah.
Like at least I made it.